Jansen.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Getting on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
There's no human being on the planet I'd rather be talking to more than Laura Albanese. Newsday.
That's a lie.
It's not a lie. It's true. It's absolutely true. I do not tell lies on the podcast. It's only truths. And I am so happy that you are back. So happy that you are here. You have your own podcast, first time listener, long time caller, correct? Am I right?
Yeah.
I love the name, but still, there's a lot of words that I could possibly get wrong there. So
I think I got it wrong for the first month and a half that we were doing it. So my co-host was like, Laura, come on.
Well, it's like when Kenley Jansen comes out and he's so happy. He loves doing the podcast. He's like, baseball is boring. I'm like, Kenley, you got to put on the NT. You got to put on the NT. It's so close. So close. Well, hey, listen, congratulations on your season. I mean, this was a whole new thing for you, a whole new role, beat writer for the chaotic New York Mets. And so you feel good? You're happy? Everything good?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was the greatest collapse that I've ever witnessed in my sports journalism career. But other than that, I mean, I really did enjoy kind of being part of the day-to-day grind of it, because before that I was kind of just going back and forth between Yankees and Mets, which was also awesome. But being there day in and day out kind of gives you a little bit better of an insight and a little bit better of a feel on the team itself.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask. What was the thing that you maybe didn't even realize that was a byproduct of doing the job, your new job compared to the old job? And like you said, you're around there, you're around it more. Maybe it's how players interact. I don't know. Was there maybe there isn't anything. Was there anything that jumped out?
Yeah, a little bit more about how players interact, kind of getting, more of a sense, because I feel like obviously when you're on the beat, you're just on the road more. And you kind of see just guys have almost more downtime in the visitors clubhouse on the road.
Yes.
They actually stay there as opposed to hiding from us in whatever back rooms. So you did get to see that. And I think part of it too was it was interesting because as a general assignment reporter, I covered all sports for a long time, and you would kind of parachute in and you'd have to cram and cram and cram and cram about whatever this team was and what their personalities were. Whereas there was almost like a little bit of a shorthand where if I go on a podcast like this, no matter what, even if I was covering the team for the last week or so, I would be doing all the studying in the world. And I still do a lot of studying and a lot of research, but you're there every day.
Yeah.
So I'm reading my own clips. So it's like I'm reading my own information.
I'm glad you said that. That's sort of, I think that's the challenge when you are parachuting in or you are covering multiple sports, or maybe you're new, whatever it is. But when you're around it every day, when I do this podcast, usually I have a couple things I want to talk about and we talk about it. It's not like I'm studying. Now, I will say this. I walked in a clubhouse and I look at Wikipedia pages really quick. And
we've been there.
That's the jumping off. But it's so funny that you say, obviously it's the available, people don't care about this, but whatever. The availability of players in clubhouses is kind of crazy. It's getting worse and worse and worse. They can hide, especially at home. They know where to hide. On the road, there's less places to hide. But when you walk into a clubhouse and you see someone available, for instance, if I go into, I don't know, another team's clubhouse that I'm not familiar with and there's nobody around, but there's one guy sitting there, I'm like, okay, Wikipedia page.
And that's how you interview every middle reliever known to man.
That's right. That's what, there's definitely a trend. You may be the first to maybe inadvertently pick up on the trend that we have.
No, you will find no greater defender in the universe of middle relievers than me. I love middle relievers. I think they're valuable, but they're also fantastic interview subjects.
They're the best.
Love you.
They're the best. They're the best. that's the thing. Is it, Laura? You have the middle relievers. Sure, they might not be the big marquee name, but you know what? They're usually the better personality. They usually have more time. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of this. And I can give you a ton of examples, including, by the way, the guy who helped my co-author who helped launch this whole thing, Joe.
Yeah.
But Tyler Phillips of Miami, like, I didn't even know who he was. Like, I didn't even know who it was. Next thing I know, he is awesome. Awesome to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And they'll tell you about their families and their hobbies, and I'm like, I'm having a conversation. This is great.
they're not like, I got to get treatment. No, yeah. So anyway, speaking of the Mets, I had said this. I randomly so Stearns would do a press conference. What was it? Once a month, once a week? What was it like?
Yeah, it was around like maybe every 3 weeks or whatever, like or
Okay.
something like that. Like sometimes he would do it on the road. When there was a big transaction, he would usually do it like in the visitor what's that, the dugout. And then at home once a month-ish.
Okay, yeah.
It's fairly accessible.
So I remember because our producer Evan's a big Mets guy. I can tell you that because he has a Reed Garrett signed placemat as his podcast backdrop.
Incredible.
It's kind of incredible. I don't want him to replace it. But we had pulled up this press conference of David Stearns, and I distinctly remember it was early June, and I remember the questions, rightfully so, was like, how awesome is it to be so awesome at finding pitchers, and your pitching is so awesome, and what a plan that you had. Isn't this awesome?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that, Laura. I remember that. That was almost like when they had that press conference, it was like that was the ultimate jumping the shark moment, fork in the road moment, whatever you want to say. I don't know if you remember this, but that was when it was crazy.
I don't remember it specifically. I know I was there.
Yeah.
I don't remember it specifically, but
You blacked out.
That sounds, yeah, like I have that entire like month of June is just like nobody was home here. Just like but yeah, like, but it did feel that way because I mean, like he comes in last year with this reputation of building bullpens, and it worked out for him the first time. And like human beings, we create shortcuts in our brain, and so we're like, well, obviously, the magic must be working again because look at where they are. They're 21.
And look at what they did last year, right? I mean, yeah.
Like, I think it's a little bit fair in that. All right, he got people's trust, so now he had to lose it, and so he was going to have that trust until he lost it, and now we're kind of more into the you're back to having to prove yourself kind of phase.
So before we get to Pete Alonso and Comic-Con, the two biggest topics in the baseball
Obviously,
world right
not in
now.
that order.
And I'm just I usually don't do this but I'm going to give you the heads up because I want in the back of your brain, I want you to start to formulate, give the Pete Alonso character at Comic-Con, like what it would be. And don't give me like some polar bear iteration.
Yeah.
Think creative. You know the world much better than I do.
Yeah.
Because you went and I didn't. But so you talk about the Mets and like, okay, you know what? You had to have that stripped away. Now you have to prove yourself again. How do they prove themselves again? Like, obviously, we love doing fake trades, and we did the who says no, this shock and awe who says no for Tarek Skubal, right? And I'm going to run this who says no by you. It's our guy, Sammy. He did it. And you're going to be like, that's stupid. Like, so I'm going to try to do it off the top of my head. Nolan McLean, which obviously you got to start with, Carson Bench, Jet Williams, and Peterson for Tarek Skubal.
I don't think you do that. No.
Yeah, for 1 year. That's the problem. It's 1 year of Tarek Skubal.
Absolutely not. Nolan McLean might be the real deal. I'm not a prospect hugger by any sense of like the imagination, but I saw this guy in real time. Like he could very well be the rookie of the year next year, if not more than that. I don't think that, especially with the amount of team control. Like right there, you said Nolan McLean. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Oh, really? No. All right. Okay.
I knew there was going to be more than that, and I'm like, Nolan McLean and how much of your farm system?
We're trying. Listen, it's not easy. These things aren't easy. The problem is that the 1 year thing it kills it because
that's what it is.
And he's a Boris guy, and we could and you have the Juan Soto example. Sure, good for the Yankees for getting the 1 year, but it's not easy. Anyway, so the question I had would, okay, well, you got to prove yourself. Sure, you have Nolan McLean, you have Jonah Tong, you have some pieces, you have some of these guys, but does he deviate from his path and do the shock and awe? I'm gonna get in the big part of the pool when it comes to starting pitching.
I mean, I think you almost have to. I mean, we saw it like, okay, so if you look at the top five in rotational ERA over the season, four of them is like the Brewers, the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the Phillies. They made it to the playoffs. We saw Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Blake Snell do what they're doing. I mean, this idea that aces don't play or that you can kind of maneuver, it's extremely risky.
Mhm.
Because I mean, we saw regression on some of the pieces that David Stearns got this year. We saw injury. That's a huge thing. If you can get a guy that is both durable and can be a stopper, because I felt like so often the thing that the Mets needed the most was just the guy, the dude,
Yeah.
like the stopper. And they didn't get it until like Nolan McLean showed up, and the guy's 24
Yeah,
years old.
they shouldn't have to, and that was the problem, Laura. Not to interrupt you, but that was the
So
problem.
yeah,
Like Nolan McLean, you shouldn't have to rely on Nolan McLean like they were ready to rely on
no,
Nolan McLean. You know,
no. And then they tried to do the same with poor Jonah Tong, which just felt like, like
you make it like poor, that poor nice Canadian kid.
he is so nice and he is so talented and he has a 7 ERA because he was put in a situation that he shouldn't have been put in
I
with
know.
two AAA starts. And thankfully he seems to be really emotionally resilient. He we would interview him after some of his poor games and he would look like he was crying, like he really took it, hard. But the next day he would bounce back and he'd be joking around and be ready to take the ball, which is great, which means you probably didn't do irreparable psychological damage. But do we want to risk
Hold
that?
on. Hold on. I'm writing that down for a slogan. 2025 Mets, we did not do irreparable psychological damage. We think. Dot dot dot. We think.
To Jonah Tong, to the fan base, possibly.
Others, who knows?
Others.
All right. Well, listen, you wrote a great story for Newsday about Pete Alonso, and I think it wasn't necessarily a headline, but I think it was an alternative social media headline, which I'm going to latch on to. Right? The Mets should appreciate Pete Alonso, which in a nutshell, like that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like before I ask you about why they should appreciate Pete Alonso and why Pete Alonso is so important, I will say this is that Scott Boras we're seeing this with Bregman as well, and we saw it with Matt Chapman, and we saw it with Blake Snell. Scott Boras is so convinced that the qualifying offer is such a hindrance, and he's probably right. Like he's probably right to a certain extent,
Yeah.
but how much of a hindrance is it? Is it a hindrance enough? Is it a biggest swing enough when they say, "Oh, 7 years for Pete Alonso"? Like, okay, well, the qualifying offer is a powerful thing, but it wasn't that powerful.
No.
No, no.
No,
So
I don't
I
think
mean,
so.
the 7 year thing. Can we just start there? Not happening.
I think that's just Boris. I mean, this is just, by the way, this is just my opinion. I don't have a source on this at all.
Yeah.
My read on this is just like that's Boris kind of setting the high water mark, understanding that it's gonna like plinko down a little bit. I mean,
Great Plinko reference.
I don't know where that came from.
That's a great Plinko reference.
Like before that came out, I was looking at, which I thought was completely reasonable, like 5 years, 5 years, 150, something like that. Probably stretch it to 6 years, depending on whatever else you want to put in the contract, certain benchmarks, whatever else, team option, player option, whatever you want to do. 7 years.
Yeah, not happening.
No,
No.
That's shooting for the moon, because even if you fall, you might end up upon the stars. Like that's one of those. Like I don't see that.
So many things I'm writing down. You're giving me like 5 different T-shirts. All right. Well, okay. All that said, that was the ultimate, like, thank you, caller. I like you personally. I respect your opinion, but you're not getting 7 years. But I like you personally, and I respect your opinion. And I also think you're really good, Pete Alonso. Tell me why he is so important.
All right. So, I mean, first of all, everyone is kind of latching onto this idea that Pete Alonso is a defensively subpar first baseman, which the metrics absolutely sustain. The reason Pete Alonso is defensively subpar, though, isn't his ability to pick the ball, which is something that we don't really measure in any quantifiable way, and that is his greatest strength. They had Mark Vientos over in third base throwing the ball to God knows where, and Pete finally found a way to get a glove on it. But he has very, very limited range. So that's something he works on it, he works on it hard, but that's not really, I think, that big of a hindrance in terms of his value. We're talking 126 RBIs. For most of the season, he was their best hitter with runners in scoring position. That changed towards the end of the year, but the Mets had terrible situational hitting. So somebody who can protect Juan Soto in the lineup, drives in 126, hits 38 home runs, hits bombs, and then what I feel like is undervalued, plays all 160.
Yes. Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
huge. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
His wife gave birth on the 21st. The Mets were playing the Nationals. He was in the lineup. He didn't announce it. They had an option. He didn't announce it. He took no paternity leave. I am all for pro paternity leave, but I think it does prove that he wants the 162.
Hey, listen, the kid isn't going to remember his birth. He's going to remember the back of his dad's baseball card.
100%. And the one that says 162 in bold, because that's a major league high, because you can't play any more than that.
It's a good story, don't we? I mean, don't we want good stories? Like this is like, hey, I didn't miss a game for your childbirth.
Hopefully his wife gave birth like later in the night and he was able to like be there.
Yeah.
But I think it does, it proves to his dedication
Oh,
to the franchise, which is unmatched. And I also liked, I mentioned this in my column. There's kind of that reputation for power hitting first baseman to fall off a cliff physically. He's entering his age 31 season. He wants to play till he's 40. And me and him had this conversation earlier in the year, and he's like, I know that my physical attributes aren't always going to be there. I know, what kind of like the whole reputation is. And so he's very dedicated to becoming a more cerebral hitter in terms of how he attacks pitchers. If you see him every day after a game, he'll have his notebook and he's at his locker and he's writing down all the things that he took away from that game. And he works really hard to make sure that his mechanics and his approach continue to mature. I personally think that this is interesting and makes him valuable, especially juxtaposed with kind of like the goofy personality that he has. But there's actually like a very deep thinker when it comes to like the science and like what it takes to be good at baseball there, which is cool.
it is cool. And I want to come back to, first of all, excellent stats, excellent facts, excellent examples. And I have always said this, Laura, like games played is one of the most underrated analytics slash stats there is, because it shows the ability to play. It shows the ability that you're good enough to play all the time. And it shows that you can be relied on. All of that. I mean, if you're not any good, you aren't playing that much, right? Because they're like, oh, you need you stay healthy, because they'll be like, oh, you need a day off, you're banged up, you're not feeling good, your swing's off. No, like I'm good and I'm good enough to play. And so like all those things. And then when you talk about the evolution of him, the pitcher that jumps to mind, or the player, I think of Nathan Eovaldi, and maybe this is not apples to apples, but I remember having this conversation with him because people remember Nathan Eovaldi was 99 miles an hour guy, right? And then what has he become? Well, before he got banged up at the end of the year, he became a historically good pitcher throwing 93. Mm-hmm. And I know that's a pitcher analogy, but I do think there's a correlation there with what you're talking about.
I do think so. And the thing is, I think it's very important because right now I feel like we're at the very cusp of what we can do with optimization. We see all these pitchers going down with Tommy John surgery because they're all trying to throw 100 miles an hour and have like 5 different pitches. And we're trying to push the human body. And then the hitters are trying to adapt. But it gets to a point that you can only push the human body so far. And, we saw it with like even, before all this, CC Sabathia, Bartolo Colon, these guys who would reinvent themselves because they knew that at one point you're going to hit a wall. And so when you are the type of player who can not only adapt physically, but adapt mentally to the idea of, okay, I'm not who I was when I was 25, but I am who I am now. And there's value to that. That I think increases your longevity and it increases your value. So when we're talking about first baseman like running off a cliff, maybe we have to reconsider what we're doing with these players. And there's also, like the fact that Pete would be an excellent DH if, they
Yeah, yeah. And I'll give you another thing that really struck me about what you said about protecting Soto, about being that guy in the middle of the order. We're going through the postseason, and we always try to learn. Okay, what are the good teams? You just had the great stat about the starting pitching ERA, right? Like that undeniably, like you can only and weave your way through so many games using bullpens and not having the alphas in the starting rotation. But I also think another thing with the good postseason teams is you have that group of guys who you're going to have to get through, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so if you go back last year with the Dodgers and the Yankees, Otani, Mookie, Freeman, uh, this year, same thing. Yankees last year, Judge, Soto, Stanton, even Seattle. Like I give Seattle, man. Seattle is like they got a good group. You have Julio, you have Raleigh, you have Rosarena, then you have Polanco, then you have so you have that group that you have to get through, but you have to earn the right to be classified as part of that group. And Pete Alonso is absolutely whatever team he goes to. That's what you want, right?
Yeah. And it's not just because he can do damage, but it also affects the way the managers manage their bullpen. Maybe you have to burn an extra arm. Maybe you have to kind of like you have to think about, okay, two batters up, all right, and, in the hole you got Pete Alonso. How are we going to do that? On deck you have Juan Soto. Like that's a whole thing. And suddenly you're burning maybe more pitchers than you want to. Maybe your plan is a little bit out of whack. That's also why I think the Mets, kind of failed though, because they didn't balance the bottom of their lineup very well to kind of
Yeah.
essentially balance that.
Right, right.
But Pete is important, and how are you going? Even if you don't re-sign Pete Alonso, then you have to think about how are we going?
Yeah, how are you going to replace him? How do they replace him?
How do you replace it? So, I mean, think about some of the options that are being thrown out. You're going to platoon Mark Vientos and Jeff McNeil until Ryan Clifford is ready and from AAA. Okay.
That doesn't seem like a good thing. I mean,
No.
I don't know if it's a good thing, but it doesn't seem like that seems like the percentage of that landing compared to the percentage of it landing if you have Pete Alonso is a big, big swing there.
Right. Okay. So you go for Josh Naylor. Also not defensively great. Still going to cost you a lot of money. Ryan O'Hearn, 32 years old, going to cost you a lot of money. Like the options are not great. And I think Boris knows that. I think Pete knows that. I just it's a conundrum for David Stearns. I know that they played hardball with him last year. They'll probably play hardball with him again this year. I just don't think that they have as many options as they had last year.
So what's your gut? Like what do you feel? I mean, you're around him, you're around the team, and believe me, I'm not asking you to say, "Oh man, he said he really wants to be a Met, so he's going to be a Met." No, that's not how this works, right? But what's your gut about how this plays out?
I think it might get ugly, is what I think, because just from like reading between the lines. So I had asked Pete post game after they had lost that last game. He said all the things that I truly think he means. Because this is a really nice guy. If anything else, Pete Alonso is a very, very nice human being.
We like nice guys, yeah.
Yes, he's a very nice guy. And he's like, I love being here, and I believe that. I want to become a stay Met, and I believe that. And then he said the line, I appreciated my time here, past tense. And I hope they appreciate me, which is very pointed. That's one thing. And then the next day, you have not that. Yeah, actually, it was the next day. We got on a plane and we're talking to David Stearns at Citi Field the next day, and David Stearns says all the stuff that he said last year. We love Pete. We want him to come back. All right, you said that last year, and what happened? But then you also spent the entire or a large majority of the press conference talking about run prevention, which is different from run production.
Yeah.
And that's also very much just like, like if you want to read between the lines, they're like, well, are you saying that Pete's defense could be a deterrent for him returning?
Well, I'll say this. They open up, obviously they got Juan Soto. I don't know if you know this, they got Juan Soto. Congratulations. Yes. And he was good. Like I mean, his numbers were good. He's good. But he's good. But you know what? There are some guys that, I think that you can't look at it as a faceless, nameless team, a faceless, nameless roster. There are some guys where you just said this guy fits here, and he fits here. Maybe maybe he's more important to us than another he might be a luxury item somewhere else, but he fits this with Soto, with him, with whatever. Like he just fits. That's important. I think that's a big part of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overstate intangibles because I try to kind of stay away from some of that because you don't really know what people's relationships are. But for as long as I've covered this team, and even though this is my first year on the beat, I've covered this team since 2015. I've seen all of Pete's career, and he's a good clubhouse guy. He's good to have around. He tries to keep things positive. He desperately wants to win. He cares very much about winning. And I know we kind of take that, well, professional athletes, they should all care very much about winning. Yeah, but there's tiers to it.
Yeah.
And he really, really, really cares. There's that reason that he's there, 162. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, he's worried about 162, not the brand.
Yeah.
I mean, which, as you said, some guys are worried about the brand, man. Like it's just that what it is. Go ahead.
Oh, and I was just saying, just I mean, we saw evidence of that. I mean, it had to have been a little bit hard to kind of have your tail between your legs and be like, okay, I'll take a 2-year deal with the Mets.
Yeah.
When that had to be a little bit of an ego blow. But he didn't seem to care. He was just like, I'm here. I'm happy. Let's do it.
Listen, he did his part. Good for him.
He did.
Speaking of doing your parts, you don't just talk about Comic-Con. What a segue this is. You don't just talk about Comic-Con. You go to Comic-Con.
I went to Comic-Con.
So have you ever been to a Comic-Con before?
Yeah, I've been either 3 or 4 times, but it had been a couple years. It had been a long time.
Okay. So the floor is yours. I mean, the floor is yours.
So Comic-Con is great. I didn't take because she actually got me the tickets, but me and my friend got free tickets to Comic-Con. And my friend is Abby Mastracco, who covers the Mets for the Daily News. And I have never met a person who knows sci-fi less. So she's walking in and she's like, what is going on? Like the cosplay and just she's like, people are barely wearing clothes or they're wearing a lot of clothes and people are green. So seeing it from her eyes, I'm like, a Daily Planet stand. And she goes, what's the Daily Planet? I'm like, oh no. Anyway, so the last time I went to Comic-Con, it was probably 6 or 7 years ago. And I had created a cosplay, which is a fancy recreation of a show that I liked, which is a sci-fi space western about rebellion and politics called Firefly.
Okay. All right.
And there's a mechanic. Her name is Kaylee. I dress as Kaylee in a flight mechanic's jumpsuit, and she has all this cutesy stuff on it. And it is a very deep cut. So I'm walking, but I had this costume and I never wore it. So 7 years have passed. Firefly is kind of out of, kind of the mainstream.
Yeah, even for Comic-Con.
Thing.
I mean, that would be my obvious question. Is it
yes, even for Comic-Con?
Really?
I didn't know that, but I didn't.
That's
care.
almost like a feather in your cap, though. I mean,
I know. So I dressed as Kaylee, and the only issue, I was so happy that I finally got to wear my cosplay. The only issue is the number of people, because I posted it on social media, who went, "You were in costume? I just thought you dressed that way."
Really? No, they did not. No, they did not.
I do have kind of a quirky way of dressing, but yes, it was a jumpsuit with some flower patterns and space puns.
I guess they weren't saying it was a bad way to dress.
No,
right?
But I was like, oh, I'm not going to reconsider the way I dress, but it's shown a light.
No. It's just you're just mixing it up. You're mixing it up. What I mean, one of the questions, there's so many questions I have, but you're burning a potential Halloween costume. So are you a Halloween costume person?
I'm not, which is probably why which is why this thing has been sitting in my closet for 7 years. So I didn't mind.
Okay.
I was just more I was just so excited to wear it.
Well, here's the thing. It's much better. Don't break it out for Halloween because it's much better there, right? It's much better there. And did people come up? So you said it was a deep cut and people maybe didn't know.
Yeah.
How many people did say, because that's the ones that get compliments, right? Because they're proud of themselves that they recognize it. How many people
Yeah.
did that?
So none in person, which the last time I went, there were some people in Firefly cosplay, but I didn't see any this time around. So I think it like the children have lost the ancient texts sort of thing, where they don't like remember the old sci-fi. But the like I when I did put it up on social media, I did get people going, Kaylee, Kaylee. I'm like, all right, these are my people. Fantastic. There are dozens of us. It's great.
See, you're bringing the worlds together. I
Yeah.
love it. Like, yay. I mean, I've said if we could just be like Comic Con isn't boring or something. I don't know.
It's very genuinely not boring. It's a little strange, apparently, according to Abby, but it's in a fun way.
But it's good that you got fresh eyes on it. That's the best part. Who is, because I know that I'm always fascinated with celebrities, or so I don't want to call them B-level celebrities. That's not fair to them. But celebrities, the people, the recognizable people.
Yeah.
Who is there that we're like, oh, that's cool.
Oh,
Anybody?
yeah. I didn't actually do any of the panels. Joey Pants was there from The Sopranos. Vincent D'Onofrio.
Oh,
Law and Order. He also plays like Kingpin and like Daredevil. I love Vincent D'Onofrio. He chews scenery like nobody's business. It's so cool.
he was there.
Yeah, Mae Whitman was there, who is Anne in Arrested Development, which
Oh.
is a show that I love.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So those are the three that kind of like come to mind. There are plenty more, but I was just kind of like sensory overload.
The last question is how this is the perfect merging of our conversations. If you walked into Comic-Con and you asked people who Pete Alonso was, how many people would know?
It's hard to tell because, sports nerds and nerds aren't really that far removed. Like there's a lot of intersection in that. So I feel like maybe the Gen Alpha, because it's a kind of a younger crowd as well, maybe not as much. But I think if you hit anyone like over the age of 25, you're probably set.
Okay.
Pete Alonso.
So, okay, that leads me to my question. Who is the Pete Alonso of Comic-Con?
I would go with Star-Lord from
Star-Lord.
Guardians of the Galaxy. So
Okay.
that's Chris Pratt's
Yep.
like character, like a little bit fun, a little bit goofy, but gets the job done, sort of like situation.
Yep,
So
yep.
I'm gonna give him Star-Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, it was also in Parks and Rec. No, I don't know.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I think we solved a lot of the world's problems today, Laura. It's like
I think so too.
I think
Job
so.
well done.
Yeah, it's a great way. And hey, enjoy. Listen, there's the adrenaline rush of being around an October run when you're covering a team, but when you take a step back, it is kind of awesome to take a step back.
To watch games with a beer in your hand and do
Oh.
laundry, not bad.
No, no, no. You can't do that in the press box. No, no. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was awesome. Thanks for having me.